In the heart of the Soviet Union, police uncovered a horror they could barely comprehend. Bodies of children and women were appearing across Russia, mutilated, dismembered, and left in remote forests. The killer was precise. He left almost no clues, and for years, the authorities had no idea they were hunting a man who would become one of history's most sadistic monsters. This is the story of Andrei Chikatilo, the Butcher of Rostov. It began in 1978 when the body of a 9-year-old girl, Yelena Zakotnova, was found near the small town of Shakhty. Her body showed signs of brutal sexual mutilation, something Soviet police had rarely seen. The country was stunned, but the authorities quickly arrested a local factory worker, Alexander Kravchenko, who had a criminal record. He was convicted and executed for the murder. But the killings didn't stop. Over the next few years, more bodies began turning up near train stations, forests, and rural paths across southern Russia. Someone was preying on society's most vulnerable: children, runaways, and women traveling alone. To understand Chikatilo, we have to go back to his childhood. He was born in 1936 in a small Ukrainian village during Stalin's rule, a time of famine, fear, and war. The famine of the 1930s was so severe that some families resorted to cannibalism. Chikatilo's mother once told him that his older brother was kidnapped and eaten by neighbors, a story that haunted him for life. Growing up, Chikatilo was bullied, weak, and painfully shy. He suffered from erectile dysfunction, which caused him deep humiliation and rage. When he became a teacher in the 1970s, his repressed anger turned into perverse fantasies about control and domination. He often molested students and was eventually dismissed from several schools. The humiliation, the rejection, and the years of resentment built up, until one day it exploded into violence. Between 1978 and 1990, Chikatilo murdered at least 52 people. He lured victims by offering them food, money, or help with directions. Once he gained their trust, he would lead them into the woods and attack. His crimes were unspeakable. He would stab, bite, mutilate, and sometimes remove organs. Investigators said it was as if he took pleasure in watching life drained from his victims. And because the Soviet government refused to admit the existence of a serial killer, police investigations were disorganized, secretive, and politically restricted. It was as if bureaucracy itself was protecting him. By the mid-1980s, the Rostov region was gripped by fear. Parents refused to let their children travel alone. Police were overwhelmed, and the pressure from Moscow was enormous. In 1984, an innocent man named Anatoly Kravchenko was accused and executed, the second wrongful execution in this case. Meanwhile, Chikatilo continued killing. He grew bolder, even revisiting crime scenes. He was once detained near a train station with blood on his clothes, but the lab tests failed to match the blood type due to Soviet testing errors. He walked free. By 1989, Soviet investigators decided to bring in psychologists, a rare move for the time. One profiler, Dr. Alexander Buchanovsky, created a chillingly accurate description of the killer: a middle-aged man, socially awkward, possibly impotent, with a deep hatred of women. When police finally arrested Chikatilo in 1990, Buchanovsky was the one who interviewed him. It took hours before Chikatilo broke down and confessed, describing every murder in graphic detail. He told police, "I killed because I was not a human being inside." Chikatilo's trial in 1990 became one of the most infamous in Russian history. For safety reasons, he was kept in an iron cage inside the courtroom, a literal symbol of the beast he had become. He screamed, mocked the judge, and shouted at victims' families. At one point, he exposed himself in court, laughing at the chaos he created, but his fate was sealed. After being found guilty of 52 murders, he was sentenced to death by firing squad. On February 14, 1994, Andrei Chikatilo, the Butcher of Rostov, was executed with a single bullet to the back of the head. Chikatilo's crimes forced the Soviet Union to confront the reality it had long denied, that evil can exist anywhere, even in the most controlled societies. The case exposed massive flaws in the Soviet justice system: false confessions, lack of forensic training, and a refusal to admit systemic failure. To this day, his crimes haunt Russia. He remains a terrifying reminder of how an ordinary man, a teacher, a father, could turn into one of the world's most depraved killers. He was a man shaped by fear, war, and humiliation. And in the end, Andrei Chikatilo didn't just kill his victims. He murdered the illusion of Soviet order itself.